We should start talking about Zelda in general.
Zelda, yeah.
So Zelda has been announced as delayed, first of all, till 2017. However, big surprise, it's coming to NX and Wii U. The new key art looks really nice, but it's still Link doing what we've seen Link do.
Now you're moving on to the key art.
I'm gonna start with the king
up
art.
and down this game was coming out. They kept on saying it's for Wii U. They kept on saying it's gonna be the big thing this year.
Wait a minute.
And they couldn't make it happen
Hang
again.
on,
But I'm not going to give them a pass. That is not okay.
It's not okay.
That is
Hang
not
on.
okay.
All right, here's another question from Matt. Who says, I was wondering your guys' thoughts on Zelda Wii U coming to the NX. We all know this was going to happen. However, I want to know your opinion on Nintendo holding back Zelda specifically because of the system. Yeah. And Matt sent a pretty angry email about it where he just felt, he sounded sort of betrayed over it, right? That here we are, dedicated fans who bought your platform and we have to wait because you have to put this other system out. Yeah. And I hear where he's coming from. I mean, that is definitely a stance to be frustrated from. I'm a bit more patient myself, but I can totally hear where he's coming from.
We don't know the truth, right? Like, the truth could be that they didn't feel like the game would come together in time for the holidays, or the truth could be that now development is slowed down because they need to adapt it to this other machine. I mean, I gotta think they made that decision a little bit earlier than just now, right? Like, they've been working on that for a while, but it's a toss-up. It's like, do you want to believe in the good in people or the bad in people? Did they delay this for business reasons or for
I think it says a lot
reasons?
about the person depending on which side you choose.
It's both, honestly. And I think it's like a big part of it is that you don't take something this important and put it somewhere where very few people can experience it. I mean, that's the sad truth of all this. It's like taking Captain America Civil War II and putting it direct to Crackle or something like that. When it's like you can put it in theaters.
If you work for Crackle, we're
I'd like
sorry.
to apologize to everybody who works for Crackle.
All three of you, I'm very sorry.
Brian Altano does not really work here.
Oh, come on. That's like my new directed. That's my 2016
directed
directed
Brian
DVD.
Altano on this show does not reflect Nintendo Voice Chat or IGN in any way, shape, or form.
No, I totally understand his frustration. I completely get that. And I was talking to Zach Ryan, who's one of the producers here, and he said that the second Zelda was announced for Wii U, he went and bought a Wii U.
A lot of people did.
He's not alone in doing that.
A lot of people
And
did.
the bonus of that is when he did that, he got to play Splatoon and Mario Kart and Mario Maker. And there's a whole bunch of really good games there. And I think that ultimately the Wii U is not going to be remembered the way the Virtual Boy or the Saturn is remembered. It's remembered the way the Dreamcast is, or even the GameCube. I mean, I think it's got some great games. And Zelda's going to be one of them, but it's not going to be for a while. But then ultimately, they are making this masterpiece, hopefully, and putting it on a place that is not going to reach any new people. Is a bad business idea, and that kind of sucks. Like, it sucks to even be in that kind of position, but you're not going to sell any new Wii U's if you put out that game tomorrow, and you're not going to sell any more new Wii U's if you put it out in 2017. You're not moving any more of those systems. It's done. People don't want to get on board with something that they feel is closed already.
Yeah.
You know?
No, it's just it's good that they're still publishing it because it shows that they're supporting people who bought the Wii U.
Which is important,
game, right?
Matt, if you're listening, which I know you are. Like, I think the fact that they committed to shipping it on Wii U is a good thing.
Yeah.
The last time a Nintendo console launched with a Zelda game, it went on to be their most popular console ever.
Not
because of that.
No, not
but
because
still,
of it.
it's a good anecdote.
But it does this. Oh, no, go ahead. I'll let you go.
I think the games suffered a bit for it because it was not from the ground up developed for the Wii, and the motion controls felt tacked on, as you said. It was nice that it was in widescreen, but we played it and we're like, it does not look as awesome as we thought it would look. It looked like a last generation game running on the machine. So hopefully that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it does bug me though that fans spin so many negatives out of this. One of them being that every dedicated Nintendo system has had a Zelda, and this will be the first that wasn't. I'm sure Nintendo wanted it the other way, but at the end of the day, they need to make a smart business decision, and I think they made one.
And I would argue it had the lesser Marios too. None of the Mario games on Wii U were bad. Actually, I mean, they were all good games, but they were not Galaxy. And they were not Super Mario World.
Hold on, to be fair, 3D World is an awesome game. Yeah. That is an awesome game, and Mario Maker is an awesome game.
To me, it's a lesser game than Galaxy. I feel it did not evoke the same feeling, and that's because it's so rooted in the 3DS game.
But not lesser by much. I'd say Galaxy platforming on the ceiling is definitely something something you'll never forget versus platforming with your friends. But the stories that happen from those moments when like you and I were playing in the demo room.
Oh my God. Some of my favorite moments playing a video game this generation.
Get the Thing came from there.
Yep.
Like there was just
and that magic
thing was that. Get the Thing was there.
That magic carried over to my own house where friends would come over. My wife and I would play Super Mario 3D World and have a great time.
Yeah, and it's like,
we
hey,
didn't really have that with Galaxy.
Okay,
I got the crown. Leave me alone.
Again, like, and you know, I have a lot of fun with that game, and it obviously did something for 4-player games that the 3DS couldn't do, right? And it's kind of like the upgrade to New Super Mario Brothers, where you had this 4-player game, was very much rooted in previous experiences. Galaxy felt really new. 64 felt new. Even Sunshine felt very, very new because of the water pack and the different mechanics, whereas the Wii U did not give you a new feeling Mario.
But Galaxy 2 didn't feel
No,
very
Galaxy
new.
2 didn't feel
It
new.
felt safe, but
You
in
had
a good
two of
way.
those games
I mean,
on
did
that
you want
machine.
3? Did you want 3 Galaxies? I don't know if a third Super Mario Galaxy would really would have done
I'm
anything.
saying I feel like the Wii U is an odd console because not only did it not have its own Zelda, it did not have its own identity with a Mario game. Like it was, you know, like every console in Nintendo history has created, like, given you a step in the Mario universe that was different. You said, wow, that's cool. I can't believe they came up with that. And the Wii U didn't do anything
So
like
I will
that.
say this. I
Neither
don't
for Metroid, right?
think you're doing this, but I do think from the multiplayer perspective, there was a breakthrough with 3D World. The idea of playing a 4-player Mario in 2D where you collide every few minutes was 10 times more frustrating than it needed to be. And even though the level designs, I would say, in New Super Mario Brothers Wii and Wii U were ultimately really good, they were more enjoyable when you were a single player.
Right.
Whereas in Mario 3D World, I felt like stages I played were genuinely more fun if the other people in the room could keep up with me.
No, I agree with that.
And that was, I think that's the breakthrough that game deserves credit for. But obviously, it is not to the extent that Galaxy, again, platforming on the ceiling was just one of those things that you're like, I can't believe this works and that I'm this good at it. Because at first you're just like, how's that even possible? And there is a wow factor that comes with that, 100%.
Yeah, and that's why, like, I don't think anybody in 10 years is going to look back at the Wii U and say it's a complete failure and doesn't have good games. Mario Kart's freaking awesome. It's got a great Smash Bros. It's got a great Pikmin. Got Splatoon, obviously, unlike any other Nintendo game in history. You know, they did something really unique there. And so I think it'll be fondly remembered for that and Mario Maker, all that. But it's not going to feel like the other consoles.
Well, you're in to add on to that, I mean, you can debate whether or not Galaxy or 3D World, which moved the needle more. But it's not debatable about what happened to the Metroid and Animal Crossing franchises on Wii U. They were non-existent outside of Nintendo Land at launch, right?
Yeah.
And then we got that Animal Crossing party game, which is about as close as we got to a dedicated Animal Crossing game, which is like, that's what really kind of bummed me out, because I remember when we first saw some of the renders that Nintendo had put together of like the 3D Animal Crossing characters walking around on the Wii U, and it was like, are they teasing this here? And I don't know. You'd have to think that something like that's in development, right? And you have to think that it's going to end up on the NX, obviously.
Oh yeah, we're going to get to that. But in mobile games, when they talk about Animal Crossing, there was a specific thing they said that was 100% that. Last question from Charlie W. regarding Zelda's last one, and then we're going to take a break.
What's up, Charlie?
While Zelda games have a history of being delayed, the troubled development cycle of this title seems different to him and implicitly tied with the fortunes of Wii U and NX. If this isn't the case, then all I can ask is this. This game has been in development since at least 2013. How could such an experienced company as Nintendo have miscalculated so badly?
They've done this so many times.
Charlie,
honestly,
no offense, but this is not the first time this has happened.
I remember sitting in an IGN office that was much smaller with my fellow coworkers at IGN 64 and going, how can they miscalculate so badly with Majora's Mask? They have all the assets lined up. They just needed to take all the stuff they built for Ocarina of Time and do a new adventure. Why couldn't they get it done? They thought they were going to do it in 1 year because of the asset reuse.
But you learned why. The perfectionist attitude, the reason
and then you
to
get
want
this
to ship
game, and
it
it's like a time travel adventure with a clock town in the center, completely different setup, and like that's what's happening here again. I think Nintendo they're not a paint by numbers company. They don't they don't create a game and then the 2.0 version usually comes out with like, all right, we're going to add a car to it. Like they start working on that and then they go, ooh, what if Link could do this?
It's not a company driven by a design document and a set of goals. It is very much, hey, we had an idea for this. Let's try and see how it feels. Oh, it feels good. Okay, let's add it here. Oh, that feels good. Okay, let's take this there.
The thing you can fault them for is that they tell us in advance, because they don't have the benefit of this huge third-party support. They want to make sure that they tell everybody, hey, there are these games coming and we're working on them. Like a Bethesda is not going to tell you about Fallout until it's almost done. They announced Fallout 4, and then a couple of months later you got it, and that's a massive, massive game and a huge project.
It's also like, so for example, Fallout 4, right? The fourth Fallout game, it's like the third or fourth that is sort of that giant open world RPG in the rundown American dystopia. I don't know how many people are working on those games, but I feel like they have the rhythm down by now. You look at the Legend of Zelda franchise, and you look at the first Legend of Zelda game ever made. When it first came out, there was nothing like it. Link to the Past came out, there was nothing like it. Ocarina of Time, absolutely nothing like it. Now, the games after that sort of deviated around becoming bigger and bigger versions of Ocarina of Time. Wind Waker went in a different diagonal and gave you that open world that kind of wasn't. It was more of just like a big sea.
There is no game like Wind Waker
There's
either.
Nothing like Wind Waker.
So unique, right?
And you look at Majora's Mask, you look at Skyward Sword, like they kind of pared down versions. They're not really like giant sprawling games. They're a bunch of interconnected kind of large sandbox
They're more
areas.
like Darksiders, now,
like
some of the games that have aped Zelda over the years.
Absolutely not.
No, you don't think so?
Darksiders is kind of, to me, like Darksiders has always been like the so-so Zelda clone. I've never been.
They're not in the same league, but they take the concept of a Zelda game where you have these item gates and these unlocked, and then they make it a little bit more compact.
Sorry, I have.
You don't.
I know some folks really like Darksiders, and I don't begrudge them for that. And I'm not trying to begrudge you, but I don't think Darksiders is anywhere near.
No,
I wasn't saying that. I'm saying like the style of Skyward Sword is closer to the games that aped the original Ocarina of Time formula, where you have these more. You don't have this sense of this overworld that is so connected and like.
So now that brings
Sure.
us up to Legend of Zelda NX/Wii U, right? That is now it's not looking like it's something that's going to be just very similar to Ocarina of Time
for sure.
or Majora's Mask or even Skyward Sword or Wind Waker. They're swinging for the fences here in terms of like the massive third person fantasy RPG or RPG action, whatever, grass cutting. I mean, they said from the start, like that mountain over there, you'll be able to go to it. And that doesn't mean a warp whistle or like a pipe or whatever, but you'll be able to visit that mountain, which means traveling across the entire land. Yep. And in the amount of time it takes you to do that, a lot of things have to happen. A lot of enemies have to start popping up. A lot of flora and fauna.
Or whatever they decide on. I mean, you don't want it to be like something that always happens. Like maybe sometimes nothing.
No, maybe sometimes nothing happens. But
it's not going to be Shadow of the Colossus. It's not going to be this empty world. Like stuff will happen.
No, and so I think they probably started making a game like this, and they looked at it, and then they started looking at the other games in this genre, and they said, well, these are games with 200, 300 person teams. You look at something like Assassin's Creed, which takes place in 17 different cities across the world, just as it's being designed. Not even in the game itself.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you're left with this game that's like it. I have to think that in late 2015, they looked at this game and they said, people might think this is a little empty. And they started populating with more and more things. And that ultimately means we're going to get a game that's a lot more bustling and alive. And that's going to be really cool. But like, it's going to take them some time because this is their first time really doing anything like this. That's my theory on this game.
No, and they experimented with the open world format in a much more familiar setting in A Link Between Worlds, and that was a really refreshing thing, a thing that we really enjoyed.
Right.
I think the dungeons suffered for it, but regardless, having the ability to choose, I think the item shop did degrade the dungeons a little, or at least take them down a notch.
Sure,
because they were definitely not up to par with what you found in Twilight Princess or what you found in even the original Link to the Past.
Think about the I mean, some of the hardest work in the video game for something like that is the overworld design.
Yeah.
And for Link Between Worlds, that was done already.